Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Austin Page. Austin, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having me, Zander. I am Austin. I am a coach and owner and founder of GymFlo Coaching that I started over the past decade. And what I do is I help people build themselves or build their days to build them, pretty much in a simple term.
Cool. So I'm going to guess that you own a gym.
Yeah, I do. And it didn't start off that way, but yes, I've made it to a point or part of my journey to where I have my own personal gym now.
Cool. Tell us a little about your background and how you got into doing GymFlo.
Okay. So my journey started off with having to create a new identity for myself. Back in 2010, May 9th, 2010, which was Mother's Day back then, I gave my mother the gift of almost losing my life. And it was due to my own...
How nice of you.
Yeah. If I'm going to do it, I know how to do it, or at least I did back then.
Yeah.
And I decided, coming up, I'll give a little backstory to give context to this event that sort of flipped the switch in my life. I was big into partying. I didn't really have a purpose, passion when I was in my early 20s, didn't have any direction, which a lot of people may feel that way even now. I just took that, I guess, lack of and found my way to drinking on the week or drinking a lot during the week and the weekends, looking for the next party, chasing drugs, chicks, things that weren't really serving me in the moment. They felt good in the moment, but in the long term weren't making me feel good. I was more so always looking for happiness in the same place I was losing it.
Got it.
Drinking, drugs, chasing chicks, nothing good in return, and going nowhere fast. And that long period of time during my early 20s led to me going to a party one night, and I wanted to go home. I remember the night, but I decided to get in my car and try and make it home. And like the typical story, I made it about a mile away from the house, ran off the road, and ended up in the hospital. I flipped my car a few times, but I don't remember the wreck. I don't really remember the night, fortunately. But and fortunately, I didn't hurt anybody else. There was nobody else on the road. Just ran off the road drunk and ended up in the hospital for about 6 weeks. I had ruptured my intestines and broke both my legs from the knees down with my left ankle fractured as well. Came to in the hospital and realized things got real pretty quick. And I wasn't 10 foot tall and bulletproof anymore. I wasn't Superman. I wasn't invincible like I always thought. And from there, I was sent to a rehab center. After that 6 week stay in the hospital, I was sent to a rehab center to where I learned how to live and take care of myself for 2 months. I lived there. And that's where the seed was planted into creating a new identity, new habits, new lifestyle, which ultimately not fixed me, but gave me a process to lean into to help develop myself mentally, physically. And now I'm able to do that with others. But during that rehab stay is where I was sort of pushed, whether I felt like it or not, bedbound or not, I was forced to do some type of exercise every day to get myself out of that rehab center.
Definitely.
So the physical therapist would come in every day and give me some type of routine to do in my bed. If I was in my bed, I had these rubber bands. And even if I didn't feel like it, they were, hey, we're going to sit here till you do it type of deal. And I wasn't really working out or focused on exercising or my health, obviously, before this thing, this event. Once I became wheelchair bound, I was able to get into a wheelchair from there. They were like, all right, Austin, we're upgrading. We're going to roll down to the gym every morning now, which there was a gym in this rehab center. And they said, hey, we're going to give you a list of things to do. You're going to do it before you can go back to your room and chill. So every morning I have to get up, whether I felt like it or not, and go down to that gym and start to develop habits of building myself. And slowly but surely, the initial urge of not wanting to do anything, not wanting to get out of bed, slowly started to fade away as I started to feel contentment, started to feel confidence come within, starting to build myself up. Strength was coming back quickly day after day. And I realized that, man, I don't have to chase after these things that were giving me a false confidence in myself and that weren't really serving me. I'm actually finding a way to build myself in with better habits, obviously.
Definitely. And we'll get back to the story in a second, but just a couple of things. The going down to PT, it may have started off as, you might have thought of it as physical torture.
Exactly.
I was in a year of PT because I busted my shoulder up when I came off my mountain bike and stuff. And I always had a good attitude. I love my physical torturist, but it's not a walk in the park. They're making you work hard. What you're doing is challenging, difficult, and often painful.
Yes.
And that's, I think, important is to say, it probably did turn into very much for you a therapeutic time. The other thing is, obviously, as you discovered with the exercise, that release of the endorphins is a fabulous, natural antidepressant, make you feel better about yourself. And I'm guessing that you started to get to the point, you're obviously there now, of saying, that's what I'm after. I want that good feeling.
Yes, 100%. The antidote to bad self-talk, negative self-talk, or lack of confidence is something like exercising, something that would actually help build you, which Definitely. For most people, the easiest, foundational entry to it is exercise.
It's so
and like
easy.
You said, it's so easy, and you can create it yourself. It's something you can control. And I found so much happiness from it. I found, just like you were mentioning, I found contentment within it. And it didn't happen overnight, of course, this 180 of habit and lifestyle. But the way I'm explaining it, it might seem that way, but it took months and months and reps and days to continue to cast votes into this new identity of Austin is a health conscious person now. He isn't a health nut. He isn't some militant person about it, even though it might look like at face value. It's just years compounded upon years of me having these daily habits that I've implemented. But it's a process that I've been able to build and lean into that truly helps elevate my days. It helps build my mental fortitude, mental strength, and makes the rest of the day's stress just sort of roll off my back a whole lot easier than if I wasn't, probably.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm a big proponent as a mental health provider. I tell my clients all the time, go out and get some exercise.
Yep.
It is, you don't regret a day you went out to exercise, but you do the days that you choose not to. And trust me, I used to run and was working in the corporate world. So I was running at 5 a.m. So often It was dark and cold and sometimes rainy, and the bed was warm and comfortable, but I'd be like, I get out of bed, just go do it, get it done.
Yeah. And like you said, you never regret doing it. You only regret when you miss.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. So if you haven't started that journey for yourself, try something. It's truly just focus, and it may not have to be 5 a.m. And that's something that I'm definitely into now that I've built myself up to that. I try and knock my stuff out first thing. If for somebody that's listening that doesn't know where to start by just saying, hey, I'm going to set a small goal of 10,000 steps a day, which, may be doable at first. It may not be. It may seem impossible at first, but the work comes before the belief. So you won't have any belief in yourself until you actually start taking those first initial steps, at least trying. And one day you might go out there and be able to do half of that, and that's okay. But as long as you continue to show up one day at a time, giving your best intent, best effort, eventually you'll cultivate that confidence, that inner self-belief to where you can push to that 10,000 steps, or that run first thing in the morning, or that 30-minute workout, or whatever the case may be. It's small baby steps. It's not leaps and bounds.
Right. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is really important, I know it's important for me, which is if you're making exercise or movement, right? And I want to be clear to the people listening. I'm not talking about hardcore, boot camp style, tons of burpees and stuff. Move your body that's appropriate to you. I was surprised when I started running. I wanted to understand my running better, so I wore a heart monitor so I could, measure my heartbeat and stuff. I was amazed at how incredibly slow I could run and be in my target zone. In fact, where I thought I needed to be was so far in the anaerobic that I would gas myself, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't require this monumental effort. Yes, there is effort. The other thing I wanted to say, the getting up at 5 a.m, yeah, that initially was really difficult. But it isn't anymore. One, because it's a habit and your body gets used to it. But more importantly, since exercise is important to me, nothing is getting in the way, or incredibly little gets in the way of me doing my exercise first thing in the morning. If I say, oh, I'm going to do it after work, a meeting comes up, the kids might need you, like something gets in the way.
Yeah.
And
100%. Yep.
And that's why, even though it's really early in the morning, and here's the thing, you energize yourself for the whole day.
Yeah.
You're mentally clear. You feel good about yourself. Your mood is elevated. Why? Because we have those endorphins pumping.
Yeah. There's a saying that I say within my group, my coaching group, and it's win the morning. Not everybody's schedule is going to be like mine or yours.
Absolutely.
But if you can get up and accomplish something for yourself, whether it is read something positive, maybe nonfiction first thing in the morning to get some positive forward thinking thoughts, or get that workout in, get that run in, something that can make a deposit into yourself first thing in the morning before the day gets ahead of you. At least you did something for yourself and you feel like you accomplished something, even if the world burnt up around you the rest of the day. At least you did something to move the needle forward within your life that you could control.
Definitely. Take a moment, if you can, and share with me and my audience about your GymFlo. What is it?
So GymFlo is a coaching group that I created over the past decade. And it started off with me personal training at a Gold's Gym. But I realized once I got into personal training that it isn't more so the physical work. It's more so the mental work that needs to be done to get true lasting results. Because I would get frustrated. I would get frustrated at the beginning years ago working with people, because 6-8 weeks in, they'd make some good progress, some results, but then they'd go back to their old ways, their old habits, their old lifestyle, and yo-yo back and forth. And I just would get frustrated. And I was like, man, I have to change something up. I have to sort of get to these people on the inner work on who they need to become to get these long lasting results. And that's when I sort of ventured off on my own and started my own brand and own coaching company that it is now. And it's online and in-person coaching that I do, where I do mindset training and nutrition coaching through my private online coaching app, and in person here at my gym with people that want to figure out how to break those self-limiting beliefs. And I still have to work through those things daily myself. It's never ending. It's an endless process.
Absolutely. I can absolutely attest to that. I've been lucky to do some pretty epic things athletically. And, I want to be clear. This is not the body of a world-class athlete. However, I got this body to do some pretty incredible things. Like I've done 10 halves, 4 full marathons, and a 50K ultra.
Dang.
I know I don't run anymore, but I did achieve all of that. One of those things was I got to run the 2014 Boston Marathon, which was awesome.
That's cool.
But let me be clear. I did not time qualify. I will never time qualify for Boston. I got in on a sponsor exemption. I got a bib from Adidas, which I was very grateful. I need to give props to my younger sister, who was doing massage work, offhandedly says for Adidas after the Boston Marathon, says, hey, would you ever want to run Boston? And I'm like, yeah. I don't honestly know too many marathoners who wouldn't jump at a chance to do
That's
Boston.
the race, at least one of them.
It really is. It's the oldest continuous marathon in the world. Aside from the Olympics, it's the only one that you have to time qualify for.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the time qualifications are ridiculous. You got to be averaging, obviously it changes with your age, but it's still the same window. It's just you get a little more time, but as you get older, it's harder. You still have to be averaging about a 7 to 8 minute mile.
Ooh, yeah, that's fast, man, for a marathon.
It is. It is. Now, what I like to joke about my Boston Marathon experience was, first of all, it is absolute. I grew up outside of Boston, grew up watching it. I love the Boston Marathon. in my 10-year-old head, I'm like, oh, someday I'd like to run that, with no idea what it is to run a marathon. And the Boston course is very challenging.
Yeah.
A lot of hills, a lot of downhills. It's a net downhill, but let me tell you, running a marathon when you have lots of downhill will blow your quads out so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they talk about, famously there's Heartbreak Hill. The hill itself is a bunch of kind of steps. The hills aren't really that steep. It's not that they're steep. It's just that where it comes, miles 17 to 20, you've just come out of you've done some pretty big downhills. So your legs, when you hit those hills, are pretty toast.
Yeah, I bet.
But what I like to joke about my marathon experience is I discovered that I am not faster than an 85-year-old woman. I met this woman who won her age group. She's 85 years old. You'd never know it. And I was talking to her on the airplane. And then I got home and I looked up. I'm like, oh, I'm just interested to know. She finished 1 minute and 30 seconds before me. So I was like, oh, look at that. I'm half her age and I'm still slower than she is. So,
yeah, that would take the wind out the sails for sure.
No, it didn't. Look, I ran my race,
Yeah, you're right. That's what it is. That's what it is.
I finished. Okay.
Yeah.
In my, the marathoners, there's a great joke. In my dreams, I'm Kenyan. And when you see those elite runners run past you,
yeah,
and they all look so effortless in what they're doing.
Gliding. Yeah.
Is insane. I ride a road bike and they're running just below my average speed. I'm out there to have fun. I'm not but they're running now close to 4-minute miles. They're doing 13 miles an hour for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, I can't even, obviously I'm not a runner at all, but I can't even sprint that for 10 seconds,
And they do in some of the big marathons, they'll have the Runners Expo. And this is funny. They'll have a big treadmill with lots of pads around it. And you can get on and see how long you can run at the elite pace. And those videos are on YouTube. They are great because there are people these people, they look all confident. They get in there and they might get, the good ones might get a minute, maybe 2 minutes at that speed, and then they're done.
Yeah, I'd need some pillows laid out to the side.
Oh yeah, they got all kinds of padding because people are flying off. Anyway, enough about, yes, absolutely. I think, the mindset is so key to the success. I mean,
yeah. And developing that switch in my business into coaching is where things began to definitely take off and have more long-lasting impact. It obviously gave more results for me to have referrals, trust, proof for social proof. So when I started to adapt that into my coaching, things began to grow all-encompassing.
Definitely.
And so that's what I do now. So I just provide value where I can with mindset training, nutrition coaching, all through my online coaching app. Definitely.
Now, speaking of nutrition, certainly really important, but so hard at times,
Yeah, it's probably one of the bigger problems, or not issues. It's not a problem or an issue. It's one of the biggest hurdles. Yeah, the challenge for everybody. It's trying to navigate that, and I don't. At least for me, with the coaching I do, I don't tell people what they should and shouldn't eat.
Sure.
I base my food or my nutritional guidance off of what's called macronutrients.
Yeah.
So protein, carbs, and fats, you fill them in with what you want. If you want to eat some pizza, you want to have a beer, glass of wine, whatever, as long as it fits within those things. Hopefully you're eating mostly wholesome foods, right?
Absolutely.
But if you want to fit some things in there and it fits, go ahead. And it's not about being perfect to those exact grams of whatever. It's what I call it within my group is horseshoes and hand grenades. If you can get close to your numbers each day, you're going to win. You're going to compound interest, and you're going to get results in 30, 60, 90 days, or however long you continue to do it. It's livable. It's how I live for the past decade, is just tracking my macros.
Absolutely. And I've done that in the past. Very effective. And the fact of the matter is that if you are trying to totally deny yourself of things that you might want or you like, you're much more likely to fail than if you say, all right, I'm out at a party, whatever. I'm just gonna have two tortilla chips. I know I'm already kind of close to my carb limit, but if you get, I found personally that if I just had that little taste, right, that sample of it, I didn't crave it anymore because I sort of satisfied that taste, crunch, salt, all of that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Versus going,
100%.
no, I'm not going to have it, and then you get home and you eat something much more than you should. But no one is perfect. We all make mistakes.
Of course.
So
100%.
One of the things I talk about in my book, and I love to ask my guests about, is I think two of the most important words on our epic journey is not yet. Because not yet there's things that take time. And certainly creating a healthy lifestyle it takes time. If you aren't already living it, you need time. You mentioned before with your PT, it's repetition. It's not instant. Changing, building muscle mass, getting more cardiovascular fit, being able to do more, that just takes time.
Yeah.
So not yet is part of it. Have you met your weight goal? Not yet. You're on your way, but you didn't, you're not like, oh, I'm going to watch what I eat and instantly 25 pounds is going to fall off. It's not, folks.
No, I like that. An analogy I use sometimes within my group is baking a cake. So we have the sugar, we got the flour, we got the egg, so on and so forth, all the ingredients to bake the cake, and we got to put it together, mix it. These are the actions and the daily habits we're trying to use the analogy for. And then there's also, when you go to bake it, you have a time frame to bake it at. You have it at 20 minutes, not 10, not 8. If you go hotter, quicker, it's going to burn it. It's going to take X amount of time to bake that cake just right. And again, it's probably not the greatest analogy because it's not about being perfect, but you want to hit that. It's going to have to allow time to bake. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of people, they want to turn the heat up to 500 for 6 minutes instead of doing 350 for 20. And they end up burning themselves out or whatever the case is, and not just letting it give time to marinate and bake.
Well, yeah, and what I like to say, that's I love your cake analogy. It's kind of making me hungry for cake, but that's not the point.
I'll stop.
There's things in people's lives where we naturally understand. So, for example, if you're a freshman in college, no one's asking you, well, do you have your degree yet, Austin? Well, no, we understand that there's a time period that it's going to take you to get it. Look, maybe you do it in 3 years, yay for you. But in general, we accept that it takes a certain amount of time to get that. And yet somehow in our own personal life, be it exercise, work, anything, well, haven't you achieved it? Oh, I've written books. Is your book done? No, not yet. Why? Because it takes time. And it's not just writing the book, it's editing. The book takes time. All of this takes time. When we want to change how we eat, it takes time. It's hard. There's a struggle. But there's something really good about the struggle.
It is. I think the making the diet work or start to take effect, or your workout routine to start to gain traction or build momentum in your life, or you writing that book, finishing the book, those are all kind of skills, and they're built over time. We start off sucking at most of everything. Think of maybe playing the guitar or piano. You probably are horrible at first. Every time you give it attention, you give it intent, give it effort, you practice it, you do it, take action on it, you develop that skill, and you strike that knife across the sharpening block. One step, one action, one step forward at a time. And it's like any other skill. The skill of probably writing gets better the more you do it, and over time. The skill of getting your nutrition down and becoming more disciplined with it probably sucks at first, but over time, as you give it attention, intent, it gets better over time.
And you find what works for you, because because you're like, oh, I should be having, tons of leafy greens. That's great. But maybe you're like, I just really can only eat so much spinach and kale.
Yeah.
I gotta find something else because I just can't eat 6 cups of spinach or kale every day. I know I should, but I can't do it. That's not what's working for me. And it's, but I wanted to get back to, so the not yet. I'd love to ask my guests, what's one or two of your not yets?
Not yet. Dang, you put me on the spot. Not yet.
And it could be your business. It could be just a personal goal. Maybe you've always thought of writing a book, running a marathon, jumping out of an airplane, traveling somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely, so as far as business goes, outside of coaching, I have tried to delve into other business areas and other areas to reinvest into myself. And I've gotten into real estate with buying rental properties, and I've bought my first one. And I have big plans, these big plans that I've been thinking and drawing out, and it's like more like a 5-year plan. And I haven't gotten to those yet, but I realize it takes time. Like these other properties I want to build and develop. I'm not these grand scheme things or single family homes, but nonetheless, I realize it's going to take time. Yes, do I want it tomorrow? Of course, but I'm going to have to let things sort of mesh and settle to finally get to those points. So, I mean, I think for me, it's maybe I'm jaded, but everything that I think about doing, I realize there is a time frame to it, or a progress arch to it, to where there's going to be a lull for a good amount of time. And I think fitness and exercising daily and things like that have built an internal, over time for me, have built a good, what word would I be? Patience, aggressive patience to me, because I take action daily on these things, being aggressive about it. But I realized that I failed in a bunch of businesses too before coaching. While I did coaching, I've tried to start businesses on the side, doing some other things, and failed quite a bit with those. And I realized from failing from some of those that things take, if not double, 3 times as long as you think, and take about 10 times more effort than you think.
Absolutely.
So, and it's taken me a lot of failures and getting my hand burnt off the hot stove many times to learn that, and finally be like, okay, I realize I need to have patience and be aggressive daily on my actions.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great answer, Austin.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah. I mean, the not yet, some people they know, and others are, they're like, oh, wow, that's a good question. But again, your whole real estate. Yeah, there's a not yet. It's happening, but it doesn't happen just like that. If you were building a house, we all understand it's not like, oh yeah, I'm building a house and tomorrow the house is done. It's not Minecraft.
Yeah. Like, for example, that house, that first house that I purchased, I bought it and I thought within a year I would have it ready to be rented. 2 years later, and much more money into it, it finally got to the point of being ready, and it still has plenty of work to be done. So it's just things are always going to take a lot longer, and you don't know until you start walking that path for anything.
Absolutely.
But you got to take the first step to get going, though. You can't just think about it. You got to take the first step.
You do. I mean, Epic begins with one step forward, and then you go, oh, that step wasn't too hard. Let me do the next one. There'll be detours along the way. That's okay. I say in my book that failure is part of the journey.
It's a must.
Yeah. Again, no one is perfect. Hopefully we learn from the things that didn't work out. We go, oh, all right, well, that's not the way to do it, right? If you're advertising your business and you try something and it doesn't have the results, you're like, all right, well, maybe that's not where my audience is. Maybe, that's not working. So, Austin, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come here and tell us about your epic story. I think it's awesome. How can people find you, get a hold of you, work with you?
Well, you can sign up for coaching today at www.gymflocoaching.com. And I'm super active on Instagram. That's where I'm at. And you'll find me daily posting throughout my stories, throwing up questions boxes for people to drop me questions and I answer them live. So definitely give me a follow on Instagram and shoot me a DM if you have any questions. Catch up with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll have your website in the show description so people will be able to find it. I want to thank you so much for coming in. I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.